extend a warm welcome to you all to the ASEAN Chambers of Commerce and Industry Business Meet. Our next session is going to be on infrastructure opportunities in India, trends in engineering. And I now welcome Mr. K. Ramaswamy, who's a past president of FKCCI, to please come over onto the stage. He's going to be sharing the session. And Mr. Ramaswamy is the custodian of Government of India Steel Products. He runs a successful engineering industry in the name of Shivasakti Engineering in Peenya. Welcome, sir. I now request him to take over the session. Sir, I think one of the speakers is not here. She's not here still. She would be coming, I guess. So what is that? This is what you have to read, sir. I think you can just give a small intro about this.
Good evening, my dear friends, respected past presidents on the chair and delegates from various sectors. I heartily welcome on behalf of the FKCCI. First of all, let me invite Madam Vidyarathan Raj to be on the dais. The infrastructure is one of the biggest and a vast subject, and this infrastructure is required in all the sector of the day-to-day life. Right, whether you take agriculture or you take the aerospace nor the rocket launching, infrastructure is most important. We have a very important subject today. We have eminent speakers. They will join us right in time. We are going to start. So as the engines of growth have shifted towards the emerging nations, it seems that economic prosperity has finally reached the shores of the East. The salient question remains whether the Indian infrastructure industry can reap the dividends of burgeoning economy growing at 7.9%. The infrastructure industry in India has traditionally been a major driving force towards the economic growth, contributing to 5% of India's GDP. Our next session is scheduled to throw the light on the infrastructure opportunities in India and parallel trends in the engineering. For this session, I would like to invite Madam Sushma Vidyarathan to open the event. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are we today? Thank you. Thank you very much for FKCCI for having me here today. I'm Sushima, co-founder of SciCon. I am a construction professional, definitely not a techie, but I will talk about technology adaptation in the construction industry today. I run a professional organization with construction projects across India and GCC countries. Most of us associate construction only with buildings, roads, and railways. However, isn't it also about organization, building history, and shaping the world around us? If we look at the global industry, the year-on-year spend in the infrastructure segment is close to $10 trillion US. It has been the spend year-on-year, and we are about to reach $14 trillion by 2025. Now, if you look at the construction industry in India, there is robust demand. We are moving to close to 5 trillion rupees of spend in the construction industry. There are attractive opportunities in the construction industry. There's only about 24% of our national highways are 4-laned. Policy support. There's tremendous policy support from the government with housing for all and 100 smart city missions coming up. So there is plenty of opportunity. Increasing investments. This is perhaps this sector in which the largest amount of FDI inflows is happening in this sector, with 100% FDI through direct route. So what are the sectors of opportunities? Where is this spend happening? The urban infrastructure spend will reach closely about $650 billion shortly. The real estate spend will be $180 billion by 2020. Indian construction market will be the third largest market globally, contribution increasing up to 15% of the GDP. And it will be the second largest employer in India with close to about 75 million people working in the infrastructure and construction industry. And we'll very quickly move to a $1 trillion USD spent in the Indian market. We are also becoming the fourth largest economy, surpassing China's growth rate and moving ahead of most of the European countries. So where is this infrastructure spend happening? Several sectors: transportation, manufacturing, energy, IT and ITES infrastructure, institutions, housing, logistics. Even though the rate of growth in housing and logistics is by far exceeding all other sectors, but the sheer volume of spend in the construction industry is mind-boggling. Even though there is a lot of opportunities in the construction industry and the infrastructure, there are a lot of threats associated with the construction industry and in general the infrastructure. We saw that the opportunities are limitless. These opportunities will be there irrespective of any economic situation in the country, which may happen to through political turmoil in the society. While these opportunities are limitless, there are a few generic threats that we need to look in the construction industry. I'm not talking about the economies, the threat from the outside countries, but what is the almost mundane threats that are there in the construction industry. I have segmented this into 3 sectors. One is the low technology adaptation, perennial shortage of manpower, and PR issues. If we look at technology spend, it is less than 1% of the construction industry spend, second only to agriculture sector. Manpower, we are people with more than 1 billion population. We have sizable and growing unemployment, but 85% of the construction projects are undermanned. This is basically due to the PR issues. The construction industry has an image of budget overruns, cost overruns, unsavory work environment, unhygienic working conditions, disruption from family, constant migration. So this is not a choice of employment for most of the people in the construction industry. We are not only competing with manpower within the industry, but we are competing with the IT, manufacturing, retail, entertainment. The workforce, we have competition from all over the sectors. So this is the general threats that we are facing in the construction industry. None of these threats are new. We have been battling these forever. It appears to me like we are almost in a time war. Are we in a time war in this industry? This is one of my favorite pictures. If we look at this picture, I would like a couple of minutes for you to indulge in this picture. This brings the perspective in the construction industry today. It juxtaposes construction over several millennia. We have the pyramids at the background, which is approximately 4,500 years old. And we have the newer construction. But construction being the oldest trade in our civilization, the pyramids were built with such cutting-edge technology, with miles and miles of passage inside, maintaining 20 degrees constant temperature inside the pyramids. But have we really moved ahead from this? Except the cranes that I see here, there is no technology evolvement in the construction industry. I just want to rush through other industries, draw a parallel to other industries in terms of technology adaptation. If we look at automobile, we see the Ford Model T there, and then the Tesla. So where are we in terms of technology in manufacturing, in automobile? Manufacturing, From the blue collar shop floor, we are moving towards manufacturing 4.0. This is the fourth industrial revolution we are talking about in the manufacturing industry. Aerospace, from Wright brothers to Rafael. Entertainment, we have moved on from Doordarshan to Netflix. Retail, from in-shop Kirana shops to in-hand with the Amazons and Flipkarts of the like. But where are we in the construction industry? We're still from masonry to masonry, brick and mortar to brick and mortar. So are we really in a time warp? The only answer to this is rapid adaptation of technology in the construction industry. The future of construction industry is this. I have just jotted down 10 points wherein a lot of technology adaptation can happen. Point number 1, prefabrication. Industrialization of the construction processes, wherein most of the construction is done under controlled environment, thereby ensuring consistency, quality, and considerably reducing wastage. Point 2 is innovation in materials and technology. Automobile industry has moved from steel to plastic to Kevlar to spacious materials, but we are still in brick and mortar. So a lot of technology adaptation has to happen in this sector. 3D printing and adaptive manufacturing. This will reduce the dependency on manpower and move towards more skilled workforce. Point 4 is the autonomous construction. This is the adoption of robots, especially in more hazardous construction environments. Why can't we use robots and relieve of our manpower working in such unsavory environments? The fifth point is artificial and virtual reality. We are slowly getting in there. This will give us better visualization and optimization. Big data and predictive analytics. Point 7 is the wireless monitoring, where buildings are made intelligent and there is real-time monitoring and feedback. The 8th point here is cloud and real-time collaboration. Stakeholders in the construction industry are notorious for working in compartments and silos. Real-time collaborative tools will ensure consistency and completeness. The 9th point is 3D scanning and photogrammetry. This is beyond construction. This is more to do with the maintenance of the buildings and life enhancement of the occupants. The last one on this slide is BIM, Building Information Modeling, with 3D to 4D to cost simulation to building performance simulations. Lots of advantage in adopting this tool. In one of our live projects, we have been able to save up to 20% of the MEP cost just by adopting the Building Information Management tool. These are some of the technologies that we need to adapt, but this is where the construction industry is headed globally, and this is the only path that we need to take advantage of the opportunities that are present and come out of the time warp. I would like to leave this platform with this slide on. While we look at this slide, we can look at it as either sunset or sunrise. It is our perspective. It is a reflection of where the construction industry and the infrastructure stands today and how we see it. Can we look at it as sunset and do nothing about it and go to sleep? Or look at it as sunrise and take off with lightning speed? This is up to us. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
I would now request our next panelist, Shanti Shamdasani, who's a president, ASEAN International Advocacy, to please come over onto stage and share her views with us. Welcome, ma'am. A round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, Mrs. Vidyarathan Raj has taken quite an elaborate way from pyramids to the aerospace, which has in a very short span of time she could cover the entire universe. Thank you, madam. You have done an excellent presentation. After this second speaker, we'll go for some question and answers from the audience. It's over to you, Samdashini, to present you.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I'd like to apologize for being late. I was actually stuck in the lift, so that was very unusual. You have the presentation? Okay, just one. So while they're preparing for the presentation, I'll just give you a little brief of a background about infrastructure within Southeast Asia. I started working on infrastructure-related project around 4 years ago. The first project I looked over was the Mekong project, which India has built between Myanmar and India at that time. And moving on to that, there was another project that touches on e-commerce and trade. So from there on, what I've actually realized and the data which I've gathered is that the trade relations between India and Southeast Asian countries through the infrastructure could be up to $2 billion per year. And this is actually a very significant number. And that's the reason why the Indian government has been focused on infrastructure within the region in Southeast Asia. You know, for me, to be able to speak today in Bangalore on this topic, I was speaking on the same topic in Delhi. I think it was this year. No, yeah, it was this year, but at the Delhi 10 Dialogue. So I do work closely with the Indian government on a few infrastructure-related projects, which I'm going to share here today. So you go up and down on this one? This one? Okay. Perfect. So in retrospect, what we see here is that if you look at the expansion beyond borders, and this is the map of Southeast Asia, and you look China there in between. But what really is in focus or in retrospect, if you look at this slide, is the discussion which we had at the 32nd Summit in Singapore, where technology and digital economy has become part of the main concern or the main fabric of the future growth. And this is where all other businesses, whether it is the trade tensions within US and China, or it is the issues around regional economic comprehension partnership, or also within the logistics and other areas. This is where a lot of discussions are focused into. And when in Singapore, when we had this discussion, it was agreed by the leaders that the focus on infrastructure should be on two aspects. First are the soft infrastructure, which is the connectivity through the internet, connectivity through clouds, computing, another aspect, including skilled labors as well. And the second one is the hard infrastructure. So looking at this map and looking at how and where India is positioned, I think we can safely say that if you look at Southeast Asia and if you talk about infrastructure, then India does have a lot of potential in this part of the country. But then if you look at China as well, China has taken a very early start in terms of infrastructure. I don't know if you have heard about the Belt and Road initiatives, which actually phases from China, and it is going to be built all the way up to Russia, Europe. So can you imagine that massive Belt and Road infrastructure which China is currently building? And I think they are working closely with Pakistan today to actually run through that. If that project actually is completed, that means China is able to do trade and provide infrastructure and logistics at a very cheap rate from China all the way to Europe. And then we are left to ask our question, where would India fit in terms of future trade, in terms of future logistics, and in terms of future skilled labor as well? Because this project, the Belt and Road Initiatives, is a 20 years project, but it is moving really, really fast, and you can see the development on that. I call this a daunting retrospect because if you look at the cyber collision which we have here, it's divided with the four technology clusters, connectivity and computing power. Today, connectivity is meaningless without capacity to compute, especially in a city like Bangalore, where IT is part of the major thing. I mean, this is the hub for all the IT, all the big data computing and analysis are taking place. So that's that constitute 85% of all assets